We live in this world that's just getting more diverse, more connected all the time. And it makes you think, how do we actually understand each other across cultures, especially in places like schools?
Mhm.
How do we make sure every single student feels like they belong, like they're truly seen and valued? So today, that's what we're doing, a deep dive right into that question, where we're looking at this really crucial intersection between intercultural communication,
Mm.
which is basically, how people from different backgrounds share ideas and get each other, and multicultural education. That's all about creating learning spaces that really acknowledge and celebrate all the different cultures within them. Our mission here is to pull out the key insights, maybe some practical strategies, definitely the challenges, and also the opportunities from this comprehensive research paper we looked at. It pulls together a whole lot, academic stuff, actual studies, what teachers think, what students say, all focused on making cross-cultural interactions work better in education. Okay, so let's unpack this. The paper really seems to stress why this link between intercultural communication and multicultural education is so vital right now. What's the core idea?
Yeah, it's interesting. The source talks about a symbiotic relationship between them, which basically means they feed off each other. They need each other to work properly. You can't really have effective multicultural education without good intercultural communication. That communication piece is sort of the foundation. It lets the multicultural education part actually foster cultural competence. That ability to interact well with people from different backgrounds, plus empathy and social justice for all learners. Without those communication tools, even a great curriculum might just, well, fall flat.
Right, that makes a lot of sense. It's the how behind the what. But like anything important, building these bridges, it's not always straightforward, is it? The research really gets into the weeds on the obstacles.
Yeah.
What are some of the, real-world hurdles that educators and schools face when they're trying to create these inclusive places?
Oh, definitely. The paper points out what it calls multifaceted challenges. It's not just one thing. You've got inherent cultural differences themselves. Think about communication styles, like how directness is viewed, maybe. A simple yes could mean different things or even seem abrupt in some cultures.
Yeah.
Then there's just the complexity of linguistic diversity. Language barriers are obvious, but they can subtly exclude students too, even unintentionally. And maybe the trickiest part is the power dynamics that often play out.
Power dynamics. How so?
Well, it could be biases hidden in textbooks or teaching materials, whose history gets told, or even just who feels comfortable speaking up in class, how privilege might sort of shape the conversation. These aren't simple things with easy fixes. They're deeply embedded sometimes.
That's a really critical point, acknowledging those power dynamics. Yeah. Okay, so if those are the kinds of challenges, what does this mean for, actual practice? How are educators and institutions trying to tackle these things and build genuinely more inclusive spaces, according to the research?
Right, the practical side. The source takes a critical look at different strategies. It examines pedagogical approaches, how we teach. It suggests maybe moving away from just lectures towards more active things like collaborative projects or problem solving that naturally bring in diverse viewpoints.
Okay, more hands-on.
Exactly. And then there's curriculum design, thinking carefully about the materials used, making sure they include a range of narratives and perspectives, not just one dominant one. And crucially, teacher training comes up a lot. Equipping educators not just with awareness about different cultures, but with the actual skills to handle difficult conversations about culture, about power, and navigate those dynamics we were just talking about.
That training piece sounds absolutely vital. So zooming out a bit, what about these huge forces shaping our world, like technology, globalization? How do they fit into this picture? Are they always helping this effort towards inclusive education, or do they bring their own set of complications?
That's a great question, connecting it to the bigger picture. And yeah, these global shifts have a huge impact. The paper highlights that they bring both, opportunities and challenges.
Okay, like what?
Well, on the opportunity side, think about virtual exchanges.
Yeah.
Students connecting across continents for projects. That's an amazing way to build understanding firsthand, right?
Yeah, definitely.
But then the challenge side, technology can worsen the digital divide or, create new kinds of misunderstandings online where you lose all those subtle cues, tone, body language. And globalization, while it brings people together, it can also sometimes reinforce stereotypes if we're not careful, if we don't approach it with real cultural literacy.
It really feels like this deep dive hammers home that understanding all these complex layers, from the subtle cultural stuff to the big power structures, is just fundamental. It's essential if we want to create educational experiences that are truly culturally responsive and transformative for everyone, designing systems where all students can actually thrive. So, thinking about everything we've discussed, what stands out most to you, our listener, from this exploration of inclusive learning environments? And maybe here's something to chew on. Imagine a learning environment you know well. How am I focusing really intentionally on just one of those key elements we talked about, cultural competence, empathy, or social justice? How might that single focus start to transform that space? Worth thinking about.
Absolutely. And there's always more to learn, isn't there? Especially with topics like this. Critical thinking is just so important with all the information out there. Keep exploring these ideas, see how they connect to your world.